Ooh, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. And welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob, this guy right here. I am your sensei, your griot, your storyteller. Here's a story for you. Cold-blooded reptiles, Dracostocanus, right?
Now, the other third type that got mentioned on mission was reptilians. But every time that they were mentioned, it was really quickly hushed up by whoever else was on the other end of the line. Shut up, don't say that, is what they were doing.
They don't want to talk about the reptilian.
They don't want to talk about the reptilian presence at all. They would talk about the tall whites and the grays being in the lab environments. Not a lot, but some. But these reptilians, it was like nobody wanted to talk about it.
Was there any sort of an explanation? Did anybody give you of why they don't want to talk about it?
No, the only time I got any inkling was that when I, was out of the program and other people started to talk to me about all the different, things. They're like, well, how many races are there? But some people talked about the reptilians. They're like, do you realize that these are evil? Now, the other third type that got mentioned on mission was reptilians. But every time that they were mentioned, it was really quickly hushed up by whoever else was on the other end of the line. Shut up, don't say it.
So the guy I know who knows lots about reptilians is a guy named David Icke. Oh, let's see.
The best way to activate your pineal gland, first of all, is to detox it, getting away from fluorides and toxins and processed foods and eating clean. And then, of course, through meditation, but also through a special type of meditation called breathwork meditation. Breathwork meditation for 2 to 3 hours will create this scenario in the brain where the brain thinks you're getting near death when you do the breathwork technique. Force the pineal gland to pressure up and squeeze and release more DMT. You can have a psychedelic experience without going to the jungle. The best way to activate your pineal gland, first of all, is to
So, what do you guys know about reptiles? Well, as I said, I'm trying to find David Icke here. Let's see what we can do. David Icke and reptiles.
At TJ Maxx, you can afford to turn your closet into a place of endless expression.
They know that the body is a biological computer. It can be manipulated, as computers can be manipulated, to process information in a different way. Control the information that is processed, that's the censorship, but you go to the next level and you are literally changing the way the brain processes information from within. One of the great manipulative techniques is to sell the idea of inevitability. If you think something's inevitable, then you move from not having it to, well, how can we mitigate its impact? And that's the soft sell. We have this global cult, a global network of secret societies that is driving the direction of human society way beyond presidents. What I started to realize is that this reality is actually a simulation. It's an incredibly advanced version of a virtual reality game.
This is definitely an interview that I've been looking forward to and working on getting for years, because I've been listening to you and watching you on YouTube at least whatever they keep up, of course, for so long. You've been engulfed in this truth revealing for decades and decades, and way before we ever could have a conversation that included even the word consciousness. I'm honored to have this time, and I think I just want to kind of start off by asking you if anything shocks you anymore.
No. Nothing shocks me in the sense that the more you
Look at David. Doesn't he look like a
grasp,
reptile?
the scale of the infinite reality that we are part of, we're only seeing a
They're all
smear
good
of it. I mean,
reptiles.
even a smear doesn't describe it really. And that infinity is infinite possibility. So anything is possible. And nothing surprises me anymore. And another reason it doesn't surprise me is that when I started out 35 years ago, there was hardly anybody talking about this stuff. There were just a few disparate individuals. The challenge was that this dystopia journey, called a conspiracy, which is what it is, was under the radar largely. In the sense of you had to really go digging to uncover it and where the world was being taken. But of course, particularly since quote COVID, the COVID hoax, we've had it more and more put in our face. Yeah. And I think that what is shocking a lot of people who haven't been on this journey for 35 years is the scale of deceit that was controlling their lives before. Because so many people have said to me in the last few years, it's so obvious. Why didn't I see it before? But there's a reason. There's a reason for that. There's many reasons for that. But one of them is, it was operating under the radar. And now it's particularly, what happened with COVID, as I said at the time, is that this has entered the room where we can see it. And although still lots of people just buy the nonsense, a heck of a lot more than ever did before do not. But my concern has been, particularly since the COVID period, is that what we call the alternative media, that part of it, because I mean, the alternative media's got absolutely fantastic people in it, but that core that attracts all the algorithmic support and all the funding. I mean, we've had stories running yesterday and today about some of the unbelievable funding that some of these people get. It's created what I call a barricade around this expansion. We go through a series of awakenings, which I think are different levels of deprogramming, actually, what we call awakening. The first one is to realize that the world's not controlled by the people we thought it was, which is presidents, prime ministers, and such like.
AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that delivers daily nutrition through gut health support and is
another reason it doesn't support. Another reason.
Optimizers.com/prettyintense. In addition to the discount you get by using promo
50% of the time when governments and authorities and courts demanded it. Under Musk Twitter X, that content is taken down 80% of the time. And it's all a perceptual game. So what's happening is you'll pick a fight with a country like Brazil at the moment,
right,
and people will go, see, he's standing up for free speech. But quietly in the background, he's taking down content all the time. He had a spat, free, look, he's standing up for free speech. He had a spat with the Australian government. And what the Australian government said to him is, we want the video of this preacher who was stabbed on video to be taken down. And he took it down in Australia.
I slapped on the patches, slept like a baby, and woke up shocked at how filthy the patches.
We watched about 3 minutes of that, and about 1 point something minutes of it were commercials, right? And so David is a righteous guy. You go read his books. I mean, he's a prolific writer. I met him in the early 90s, and he basically was the only guy. I mean, it was the new age and alternative community that I was part of. And I was more of the esoteric and scientific part of that alternative. And that was the more older one, the Theosophical Society, and the other kind of the Thule Society. And these, yes, they were esoteric in nature and occult in understanding, but they were technologically adroit, and they realized that one man's religion is another man's magic, is another man's science, right? And one man's science, another man's technology. So that's what was understood. And I was always interested in kind of understanding and knowing and digging around in things that are kind of in plain sight, but no one ever sees. Because I kept seeing things that, did you see that? And it wasn't like I was hallucinating, it was that I was back here. I was never up here, right? I was never in the foreground. I was back here. And I could see all of this instead of this, right? So I kept seeing a larger picture, and I kept seeing connective tissue, and I had this, I don't know, situation that I kept finding myself surrounded by people who kind of knew what was going on and would say, "Oh, you're a smart young man. Here, take a look at this. What do you think of that? What's your opinion of that? I want to know what you think. I'm not going to tell you what I think. I want to know what you." So I kept being asked that question, and they kept saying, "Oh, take a look at this. What do you think of that?" And once I got into that position, more people asked me that. And here comes Fish. Hey there, Miss Fish.
Hey,
So we're live on the last part of the trilogy today.
I saw that and I thought I missed your call last night because I was already in bed. I thought I'll just call you while you're on.
Yeah, right. And so
You're on live.
So what you said about the folk who are kind of middle can push the people on the edge off the board. The real thing that I've realized that is kind of one of the tricks that is played, and to separate us. And so the people who you think are, not in your camp, you have to accept them for who they are and listen to them, because when you listen to them, they'll listen to you.
Yeah.
You know.
I just we want to have a united country.
Yep.
We need to have a united country. We need to leave the far edges alone.
Right.
The far left.
Right.
The far right. I mean, the conservatives and the Democrats or the Republicans, they both have good ideas. We just need to find the middle ground, sane ones.
Right. Well, the
not
other
the
side of the coin
crazies.
is there are people who always take advantage of this situation to play it for their own nefarious reasons, right? And that's been going on forever. You look at Rome and every empire, last 16,000 years since Babylon. And that's kind of when things kind of changed. When people, up until before Babylon, people were more, the world was more like a family than a business. And and once it became a business and power and profit, because before then, people would lend you things without expecting to get paid for it. You know what I mean? And virtually all
those days are long over.
Yeah, right. But for things to get back to where it's survivable and sustainable, that has to come back. The profit margin is the thing that's killing us.
The problem is we went a couple of generations where back in your day, I heard you talking earlier today. I was in and out of your live chats earlier today, but I can't remember if it was the first one or the second one, or maybe it was yesterday. We were talking about getting things done on a handshake, and you
Right.
scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, vice
Well, it
versa.
wasn't even scratching your back.
And
It was more
yeah.
like a relationship, right?
And those days are gone. We went for so many years and we lost that.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Everybody wants something for everything. It's not, hey, I'll help you out and do this. Just example, hey, my mower's broke. Can you I noticed your mower's broke. I'll come while I'm mowing mine, I'll mow yours. And then if something happens,
Right.
something else goes wrong,
Right.
you can help me with that. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of like
yeah.
barter.
Yep.
But really, no money's changed in hand. It's
Right.
just
Right.
time. But
Right.
everybody has put a price tag on everything.
But see, the thing is that people haven't quite put the price tag. The social structure has, right? And
Uh-huh.
and
A lot of that has to do with people don't have any manners.
right, or patience, or they're so sped up. But see, the thing is, like I said, there are people who are taking advantage. So we live in a world now that the food that we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, is all poisoned for us to lose our mind, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through many different phases of that, so I can talk from experience. And when I died for the last time, I came back and I was still really messed up, but I was, I didn't let them cut my legs off. I didn't let them do this to me. Didn't let them do that to me. And then it was 7 years of bringing myself back to where I'm at now, which is still pretty screwed up, but I'm okay, right? And I'm here to serve love's co-creation rather than the bottom line. And
Yeah.
I always have whatever I need, I'm always taken care of. And I'm out there, I don't have enough subscribers to get this thing monetized. So screw it. I'm not worrying about it. I don't like go on and on about it. When I first started off, I tried to, and then I said, nah, screw it. I'm going to be the pebble in the palm. I'm not going to worry about it, right? So, because every time I do make a lot of money, I get too involved in that.
Yeah, I saw somebody. You're cutting in and out.
Okay.
But I saw somebody earlier today say something about. I guess they wanted to super chat.
Right.
That's where they can.
Right, they wanted to know how they could help me out.
Super chat.
Right, help me out. But you need X amount of subscribers, et cetera, and I've watched a lot of people. So I've been doing this now for almost 7 years. So I watched a lot of other people get on YouTube about the time I did, or a little after, and a number of people who would come on the chat would say, "Oh, I can make you, famous, and up your thing, and just put me, control of your show, and blah blah blah." And I would say, "Well, that's nice," and we talk, and basically, I just didn't want to, because of the things they wanted to do with it. Not really. I mean, people say, "Oh, we, own you," basically. And I said, nah, I don't think so. And then, basically, that's why I have under 1,000 subscribers, So, and that's fine, because a lot of other people watch it. I mean, I go look at the views, when they give me the whatchamacallits, and I see a lot of people watch it and don't subscribe, because I don't really, a lot of people, the first thing, hit that like button and subscribe. And they, every 10 minutes they say that. And I'm watching other shows that I've known those people, and they have some interesting things to say, but they're now hawking, supplements and all of that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not like putting that down, but there is a cost to that,
Well, they have to because they've been demonetized on YouTube, a lot of them.
Right. So
that's why they're hawking supplements and stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so, but so this ain't my job. You know what I mean? I'm not doing this to earn a living, so I don't have to worry about it. So
Yeah.
But the thing is, right now we're in a very interesting position because everything is really, really obvious. Because the world has been this corrupt, like I said, 16,000 years, but people have been distracted by all kinds of things. But now things are really, you can tell that there is no, the Democrats are a joke,
Yeah.
And the thing is that when Biden was there, he was doing crappy shit too, but he was doing it in a way that people just thought it was the same old same, right? And this is these guys are going for the jugular right away, and because they feel they have to, they really can't. So tonight's show was supposed to be about reptiles. Did you ever read any of David Icke's books, or do you know who David Icke is? Did you ever hear him talk? Right. So
I've not read. I don't read.
Right. So, but you've seen his YouTubes. He does a lot of YouTubes, and so his whole worldview is that everything is run by a very insulated pyramid structure, and there are a few people at the top, and the rest of us are just underneath them, and the people at the very tippy top are reptiles. The Queen of England's a reptile, and et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, right. But her bloodline is that, and so you hear all kinds of stories about the royal families have blood diseases and et cetera, et cetera. So there is a historical reference to that, and there are humans aren't the only creatures running around, and the other interesting thing is, it's like you have dogs, right? They're smart, aren't they? Right?
No, not dum-dum. No, he's smart. I just call him dum-dum.
But not only is he smart, he's empathetic, right? And he actually, a lot of his sensory mechanisms are way sharper than yours. I mean, he's got smell-o-vision. He can smell things that you can't even see.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
my daddy has a dog that's like that goes with him everywhere.
Right.
She can always tell when he's gonna his heart's gonna go into AFib, and he's gonna fall, and all kinds of stuff. So she's pretty smart about that.
So has she been registered as a service dog?
She has now, yeah.
Yeah, so she can go with him wherever he wants to go.
And she went with him everywhere he went to go anyway. All of his dogs have. He even takes them to church.
Well, that's good.
I mean, they lay down and behave.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my dogs were the same way. My dogs, we could walk into places and people wouldn't notice them.
Yeah.
And they were relatively big, they 40, 50 pounds. They were not teeny dogs. And yet they would be very chill and check every place out and go to the place where no one was looking and just lie
The
down.
only place that Rose really gets noticed is Tractor Supply. And occasionally at Lowe's or Home Depot by some kids.
Yep.
And she'll just sit down and let them pet her. She doesn't care.
Right.
Just as long as they don't try to take her away from Daddy.
Yep.
Half the time, he don't even have her on a leash.
Right. Yeah, I never had my dogs. I mean, I had to. And Bella was really good. She would carry the leash in her mouth. Like, oh, you need a leash? Here it is. And so it's.
Yeah, because there are people too, like They don't know where these Rh negative blood people come from.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes. So there are a lot
I
of.
mean, there's no
yes,
genetic marker
exactly.
to anything
Yes, right.
for Rh negative.
Yep.
My mama's Rh negative.
Yep.
AB, the
Yep.
rarest type.
Yep. So that's the bottom line is that, and none of that stuff, I've been involved in the scientific world a bit, and people in that world will talk about a lot of interesting stuff, but out in the public world, not a word is said. And so that's kind of what's going on with Donnie. And people, oh, he's a fascist, blah blah blah. Guys, you don't realize that we have been in a fascist world. It doesn't matter, wars, First World War, Second World War, Spanish America. Those were all scripted things to change certain economic and political structures, but they were not. It just happened. How could the First World War get started just because some duke got assassinated in Yugoslavia? Why start World War One and take away everything from North Africa to Ireland? Like how did that happen? Like 32 countries got involved in this thing, and it changed the world economics and you name it.
Yeah, I don't know much about World War One.
Well, it's every war has been the same way. It's been done for a lot of different reasons that are never really mentioned, unless you go study it. I mean, the real interesting stuff about all this stuff is that it's not really hidden. I mean, it's there. It's not advertised. It's not put in your high school history book. But you want to go to that library and spend some time combing through the books, you can find out anything. And now that everything's been digitized, it's really very easy, but people don't do it because the digitization of data has caused people to get siloed into their thing because our phones were like basically given to us for free, right? And and all the platforms that we're on are pretty much free because every time we go onto a platform, they'll learn. Every time you Google something, Google is learning more about you than you're learning about whatever you're looking up, right? So that's what has happened is that, and so then the algorithm just steers stuff to you. Now I have such a diverse palette of looking at stuff. The what you call it the algorithm's kind of confused because it feeds me. I don't fit into any one category. I get a ton of stuff, and I don't look at it. Until this last few weeks I've stayed here because the deep green is just finding. My road is just finding to be accessible. And I'm going to go back later in the week. But where I'm at now, I have total access to the internet. So I've been on it, a lot. But when I go back home, I mean, when I'm in the deep green, I basically are on the internet 6 to 10 hours a week. Here.
You can stay there a few more weeks. They're planning on rain for the next, 10 or 12 days and then turn off code again.
Yeah, well, the thing is
75 degrees here yesterday. It barely made it to 60 today.
Yeah. The thing is that what we are here, especially where I am, not so much where you are because you're at the bigger, wider, more open part of Tennessee. I'm like up in that teeny corner between Kentucky, the Ohio Valley, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and everything kind of things slide by us. Like all the really crazy weather of the last 2.5 weeks has just missed us, right?
Yeah, it's not supposed to be crazy weather. It's just supposed to be rain.
Right. And
it's
so
super cold.
But it was supposed to rain all week and it hasn't rained. It was supposed to rain tomorrow. It's not going to rain tomorrow. Might rain Saturday. So anyway, I'm going to go there because it's still warm and it's supposed to stay warm here until mid next week. And so
I keep a watch on it.
Yeah, oh well, I do.
Because I thought it was going to stay warm here.
Yep.
And so like Thursday or Friday, and the rain moved in Sunday.
Yeah.
And like I said, it didn't get above 60 today. And then it's, like I said, they already hollering for rain tomorrow and Thursday. And like one day it's supposed to be back up to 75. Saturday it's going to be 75, and then Sunday the high is 43.
Well, the bottom line is
that?
I've been sleeping on concrete for the last few weeks, and I'm tired of it. I want to get in my own bed and at least get a couple of nights of good sleep. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's and I can always leave. So, and I have one of those weather radios that kind of gets it out there. So, what's the weirdest thing? Like, have you ever seen a reptile? Like a human
snake
being?
Or a lizard, but as a person, no.
No, right? Because I've seen people. I've been in situations where, I mean, they didn't have scaly skin, but their eyes blink sideways.
I choose not to. I personally choose not to see all of that.
Right. No, I can understand.
I don't think it's a. I don't doubt that they're there. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I also believe in ghosts and spirits and stuff like that.
Right.
But I choose not to see them.
Right. Exactly.
I feel once you say, okay, I want to see you, then you'll see one, and I don't want that.
Right. So my bottom line is, and you've heard me say this continually, being your best, conscious intent of doing your best and seeing the best. So even reptiles, they're good reptiles. You know what I mean? There's good characters in every group, right? So that's why I don't write off groups, because no matter where you are, like I'm in the Ku Klux Klan land, right? I'm in the place that, what's her name said they were a basket of deplorables, and the other guy said, oh, they love their guns and their Jesus. Well, that's where I am. Like in the most, any other place, like people used to go, Lynchburg where Jerry Falwell, that's a buckle. No. Oh, Asheville where Billy Graham is. No, those places were faux. This place is like for real. So I've been here 25 years, and I have, accepted everyone and never judged anyone. And people have come at me like, I'm going to kill you. I hate you. You're blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, I apologize for that. And I just talk in that manner. And then it like so takes them aback that, and I just keep at it. I don't give up on them. And then, within a week or two or three or a month or two or whatever, we're buds, right? And then they talk openly about everything to me. And they know that I don't mention anything that they say to anybody else. And that's a valued thing, And so, FDR had probably the best thing he ever said as president. He goes, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And that's so true. There is no fear. Everything is love's co-creation. Everything is. Everything that's nasty and terrible and catastrophic is a delusion of our fear. Meaning, when people go on about the devil and all that, the devil doesn't make us do anything. The devil, at best, tempts us. We're the people who do all the terrible stuff.
We have the wheel.
Yep. And
the devil just tempts us.
Yep. And so if you don't take the temptation, you don't buy in, you don't give up.
I've seen that this is very poignant. I can't remember where I saw it. It was sometime this morning. Because I get up like before the chickens.
Right.
Anyway, it was something about they went on a tour at the Louvre, and it was a famous painting of the devil.
Yep.
And the angel playing the last chess match.
Yep.
and a world chess master was on this tour. It was a special tour, and then lost him, and they went back, and he was like, well, the painting either needs to be changed or the name needs to be changed, because there was still one move left on the chessboard in the painting,
Right.
for the God,
Right.
or the representation of God.
Right.
So the devil would have lost.
Right.
So I can't remember what the name of the painting was right now, but I thought that was really poignant to what you just said.
Yep.
There's always one move.
Yep. And the bottom line is, you never give up and you never give in. And see
Well,
that.
I was brought up that way. I mean, when you're sick or hurting or whatever, you just keep going and you can't go anymore.
Well, and you're a good testament to that. All the stuff you've been through, and you have, and you have not like bullied your way through or muscled your way through. You got through with faith.
Yeah. Some people say I'm a pushover.
No, you're not.
Look, I don't like to take off work. I took a total of 8 hours off of work last year for all 365 days outside of, normal holidays.
Yep.
But because I don't like to work, and I had to come home early today because I had to meet. My house caught fire a few weeks ago.
Oh.
And on my front porch, and it burned through my outside into my wiring. The only thing that's protecting me from the outside is the drywall on the inside. I've got the moving blankets up right now to cover the hole. I don't know if the fire started in the wall. I don't know what, it burned anyway, they got to replace my whole front porch, and then anyway, it's a whole mess.
Yeah.
And the material that was up there, because my house is brick, and then it's got siding, and the type of siding that burned, they don't make anymore.
Yep.
So we got to find something that is comparable. Well, they can't find anything that's comparable, so now they're going to have to replace the siding on my whole house. Plus, I got to tear my wall out of my living room, replace my carpet, all this good jazz. But anyway, I come home from work to meet the contractor. I met him Friday, the actual contractor, and electrician come out today because, like I said, it burned up my electricity, and it was crazy because when I got up in the middle of the night of the fire, I have a wood burning stove or a fireplace. I don't know. It's got a door on it, so I call it a wood burning stove.
Yep.
And it was 16 degrees outside that night. It was before it got down, below zero.
Right.
Those couple of weeks we had those zero temperatures.
Yep.
Anyway, so I thought, I got up, went to the bathroom. I thought, I'm going to put a couple of pieces of wood in the stove, so when I get up in the morning, I won't have to kind of, rekindle and restart the fire, and it'll be warm in here. And I did all that, and I shut the door and it's got a blower, and it blows the heat out.
Uh-huh.
And I was getting up to go back to bed, and the power went out, which isn't uncommon for my neighborhood. And normally I'd look out the back door, which is by the fireplace, but I didn't. I walked to the front door, and I can only explain it by, I guess, God, because I didn't. Normally I don't go to the front door because I put this bar up, to keep somebody from kicking my door in.
Yeah.
I don't do it. She does it. I'm not scared.
Yeah.
But anyway,
when
I take that down, my dum-dum, he's a year old now, but he hears it and he jumps down and barks. But I opened the front door to see if the people across the street lights were on.
Right.
They were, but when I opened the door, I was met with a wall of flames, and I just shot out the house, no socks, no shoes, no jacket, no nothing. Grabbed my hose pipe and started spraying the house. And of course, it's pitch dark, so I'm just spraying it at the flames. I can't tell if it's gotten my ceiling. I don't know nothing. It's dark. No lights anywhere. Till the fire company came, all 3 trucks, and
Who
I don't know,
called
it was
the
a big
fire
show.
department?
But
Who called the fire
the
department?
boys ran upstairs and used fire extinguisher and water until they could get here and spray the house with the fire hose.
Right.
But it's just been a mess. But anyway, long story short, I came home early today, and I hate coming home early from work because something always happens. No sooner than I normally would have gotten home from work and sat down, to either eat supper or start watching TV, work calls. And I was on the phone for another 2 hours, and I was like, this is why I don't leave work, whether I have something to do or not. So, anyway.
Well, that's life, and so life is a myriad of unexpected experiences, and you can either be taken away by them in a like, oh, why me, or you can learn from them and go, wow, I'm glad that. I mean, I don't know how many people when I was counseling people who were dying. How many cancer people said, the best thing that ever happened to me was getting cancer because it snapped them into their life. And
yeah, makes you think about what you didn't do. And
right, but no, they started not in a negative kind of, oh, I wish I did that. No, it's not.
They start living more.
Yes, exactly. That they say, okay, doctor says I only got 6 months to live. I'm going to live every second of those 6 months and not just sit in bed and be miserable. And those guys, the people who did that, usually lived another 6 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that was another thing my grandmother always said, arthritis runs bad in our family. I've already had a couple of surgeries on my hands because I have osteoarthritis.
Yeah.
And anyway, but I had a cousin who married a lady who had rheumatoid arthritis, but she never would. She didn't let herself get all stiff.
Right.
To turn her head, she had to turn her whole body.
Yeah.
And he always said, this is why I tell you to keep moving, keep exercising.
Yep.
If your hands are stiff, I don't care. Make them in a ball.
Yep.
And let them go. Make them in a ball and let them go. Because you don't ever want them to be stiff and you be like her.
Yep. And, that's, I think you hear me a lot of times say, well, I got to get up and walk now.
Yeah.
That's what I have to do. Like right now, I'm moving. So the bottom line about all of this is people don't understand this. In the good old days, especially in movies when, somebody would die or something terrible would happen, someone would say, well, that's God's will. Well, it really kind of is. And I really lost my charm of it. But when people think they know God's will, I go, really? Really? You're going to tell me what God's will is? Okay. Good luck.
I am of the belief, being brought up Church of Christ with the sprinkle of Baptist.
Yep.
Not Southern Baptist, just regular Baptist.
Yeah, just regular Baptist. Yes.
Even though the Southern Baptists are here.
Yeah.
The whole big old convention center's here.
Yeah.
I am of the opinion, and I visited other churches like non-denominational or like Episcopalian and stuff like that. But anyway, I believe God's will is between you and God.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not an atheist.
Right.
I'm not. I guess I wouldn't say I'm a theist, because a theist, unless I'm wrong, isn't a theist that somebody that
Well, they believe in God, and they.
Yeah, but I guess I would say I'm a little bit of theist, a little bit of a Gnostic. I believe there is something, but I don't necessarily believe that you have to be part of any particular church to get to heaven. I do believe you can have a direct connection.
Right, and getting to, my basic experience is, because I've been around a lot of dead people. Everyone goes to heaven at some point in time, meaning everyone's getting there, right? And it is our life in this corporeal bag of water here. This is like the sandbox. This is where our soul kind of experiences things to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're doing here. We're not doing anything other than that. So everything we do is part of that lesson. So good, bad, or ugly, it's a lesson, right? So yes, you could be Adolf Hitler, but that was a lesson, and it incurred millions of people, that guy, right? And so he expanded lots of lessons to lots of people, and so that's God's will. And to say that's good or bad, or how can God do this terrible thing? No, the bottom line is you're learning. And so if you do really terrible stuff, first of all, there's always a cost for everything in the corporeal, right? And I learned that very young. And so I and as I grew older and learned things and had great teachers and would have experiences that I could say, well, I could use this and make a lot of money and take advantage and blah, 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 blah. And either a person of wisdom would say, well, you can do that, but there's a cost to it. And so,
I'm a firm believer in karma.
Right. So there's a cost to everything. And karma it doesn't just, happen immediately or a few years ago. It's like your spirit exists in multiple dimensions, in multiple places, and all of that stuff is it travels through all of that. So every time I would have an opportunity to do something wrong, I would say, no, I'm not going to do that. And not only am I not going to do that, I'm going to make a oath with myself and God that I am not going. So when I was at a Shinto temple and I was learning about healing, well, we learned about everything. Like to heal the body, I had to learn about the body. We learned about how to hurt the body. We learned martial arts. That was part of it, because it really does teach you a great deal about, this is where the body is vulnerable. This is how you can heal it or hurt it, right? So anyway, I made a real serious oath that I was never going to hurt anybody. I may be stupid and make some mistake, and someone may get upset with that, but I'm not going to, and that's why I try to be, not be in a rush and to have the big view. I don't look at, unless I'm really looking inside of something, looking at the teeny thing of it, I'm always looking 4 blocks down. Because if I have that amount of time, I have enough time to see what's going on and to say, well, okay, I'm just going to get out of here. Or, oh, that person, I need to get them out of here too with me. And it actually works pretty well that way. So I don't, because I have almost instantaneous karma. If I'm in the supermarket, the lady gives me an extra penny. If I notice it, and I, don't give it back, I'll go out in the parking lot and a truck will run me over, So it's not equal, it's and it's instantaneous. So And because of that, I can put a hat on my head, forget about it, and walk out of the store with the tag still on it, and no one will say, hey, you're stealing that, right? And then I'll get home and find I have the hat with the tag on it. I'll go back to the store and say, hey, I owe you for this hat. I walked out with it and didn't realize I had it on. And virtually every single person, every manager, every store owner goes, I can't believe you came back to pay for it. You got away with it. You could have just, I said, no, I couldn't. Once I realized,
I've done that in my buggy.
Yeah.
Like something slid up under something big in the buggy.
Yeah,
maybe
yep.
like, well, before when I used to go to the grocery and I'd be buying cat food or dog food,
Right.
and, those be big bags, and then something slide up under there. And of course you bring it, at Walmart's, they'd bring it. You push it on out, and then I would notice I hadn't paid for 2 or 3 things that had slid up under them
Yep.
food bags. And I'm the same way. I go right back in the store and be like, look, I wasn't trying to steal these. I ain't trying to go to jail for this. Can I please pay for this? I found it in my buggy when I was loading the car.
Yeah.
I am the same way.
Yeah, it works out much better, right? Because people think they're getting away with something. There's no getting away with anything.
Yeah, I have even reminded like clerks, people, that work behind the counter or
Right.
whatever, especially at the gas station. I'm like, if I didn't see them ring my Coke up,
Right.
or I have my Coke a little too close to me, and they're ringing up my other stuff, I'm like, you did get this Coke, because I'm not going to jail for a $2 Coke. I make a joke out of it,
Right.
but I'm serious. I
Right,
want to pay for
right,
it. I'm
right.
not trying to steal it.
Right.
But that usually then gives the clerk a chuckle,
Right.
and
Right.
we have a laugh over it. I'm one of those types. It's just like when the electrician man come out here today, I'm like, can you fix my doorbell, my light, my this, that, and another? And I said, and he said something, and I said, well, I don't really know. I don't know nothing about electricity or this, but I can tell you what goes missing when. So, and of course they laughed, because, I know a little bit about a little bit, but not enough to be an expert.
Right. Well, who wants to be an expert? I've never been a fan of experts because they know nothing except one little thing,
My daddy my daddy was a general contractor for many years. He's since retired. He did mostly concrete, but, he'd build concrete bridges, but mostly concrete for big warehouses or stores, sidewalks, curbs, that kind of stuff. But he got up on stand one time. He had to testify, and they asked him what he did, and it was right after he retired. He said, I am a jack of all trades and a master of none. And that is on the public record,
Right.
of the court case.
Well, the thing about that, when you are a jack of all trades, you are a master of everything you've accomplished because you understand it, you know it. Just because you know a lot, what I don't use that term. What I say, I have many skill sets, right? And I do. I have a lot of skill sets, right? So I don't call myself an expert or a jack of all trades. I have a lot of skill sets, and I'm good at them. I get paid for them, or I did.
Yeah.
And
you and my daddy have had a lot of the same. I mean, he's not good with electricity,
right.
But as far as building and concrete and running, I guess you'll call them skid steers. I call them bobcats because that's what they originally were.
Right.
Dump trucks, all that. He can drive any kind of machinery like that. Blow up holes, pour asphalt, whatever.
Yep.
But then, he also did he also was a police officer. He also was a codes inspector.
Yeah.
While he was a police officer and a firefighter.
Yep.
So,
So anyway, that's the bottom line. Is I have a lot of skill sets, and I was a contractor. I built a lot of houses and a lot of stuff, right? So I know, I knew about all of those things because what I did, my business, I got into being a contractor right when, in 1986, when the saving and loans collapse happened and a lot of builders and contractors went out of business, right? And so I got into it, and and real estate fell off the map, right? So I was out in Long Island, and I, was working. My dad said, "You always have these great ideas. I want you to do." I said, "Okay." So I had a checkbook, not unlimited, but I had money that I didn't have, and I went and bought properties that were like buildings that had burnt, and they took the insurance money, but they had to put a good roof on it, right? So the inside was still fucked up, but the outside of the building and the roof was good, and I could buy it for virtually nothing, right? And so I bought a bunch of buildings like that. We're right in neighborhoods that everyone thought were crappy neighborhoods, but the good neighborhood was just over there. Meaning it was obvious when things got better that this neighborhood where I'm buying this building is going to be part of the good neighborhood. And the rest of the crappy neighborhood is going to be also the good neighborhood because there's only so much real estate. And so I did that the first 2 years, and I got crews who were guys who had businesses, had built a lot of houses and a lot of this, poured a lot of concrete, all of the different trades, but they overextended themselves, and then they got into alcohol and drugs and ended up in jail, lost their families, lost everything. And I kept, I'd be building stuff, and these guys would be watching me do it, like, they want to come and ask, "Can you got some work?" And I would say, "So did you ever do this before?" And they said, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah." And I had this one carpenter who was an amazing, he had a contracting business. He was really great at everything. A plumber guy, and a roofer guy, a sheetrock guy. And then I met this guy who was excavator and had all the equipment, and he had totally gone belly up. And his workers were still finishing the jobs that they had so they could eat, right? But their business was already dead. And this guy was desperate. And I said, "Let me buy your business." And I did for nothing. I mean, big bulldozers, a crane, backhoes, all kinds of stuff. And these four guys, grandpa and his two sons and their two sons, and they were black, and they were great. And so, long story short, is I had 4 projects. These guys, we did it all. We went on to another 4, another 4. Like in 18 months, we had about 12 buildings, and the economy was starting to come back, and I was renting them out. We had a rent roll of like 40 grand, right? 18 months, right? My dad probably put in 150 grand, and I had like this, all these businesses. And I went to the lawyer, and I set them up in LLCs, so they owned everything. Because I knew my father was going to do his normal bullshit thing and freak out and pull the plug on everything. And so when he did, it was no big deal because all these people didn't lose their livelihoods, but now they had businesses and they had projects, and there was nobody else to do the work, and there was more and more work that needed to be done. And so they did really good. And my father sold everything of ours to our lawyer, and he had real vision. And so he took what I was going to do and he completed it, and he made like, $60 million. And my dad had stuck to it. That would have been ours, but he didn't. And, but I knew my father was going to do all of that. So I just kind of went through it and did it. And at the bottom line of it all those guys took care of me over the years. I did a lot of other jobs, did a lot of other things, and it was like, you know, don't worry about it, we got this, because I gave them a life.
Yeah.
And so I got way more than I would have ever gotten, even if my dad stuck to it and we made millions of dollars. I got more than that from all of those people. And the guy, the lawyer guy, he actually gave me a couple of checks that were quite nice because he made so much money. And he was, and that was my dad. I mean, I knew my dad. I knew he was going to do it. I went into it knowing that he was going to do it because he did it to all of my other brothers and sisters, So I did that, and knowing that it was my brothers and sisters expected my father to be righteous and fair. And, when he got rid of them, but see, they didn't appreciate the fact that he paid them really well when they was working for him, more than they would have got if they had worked for anybody else. But they expected to get the bonus, to get the business, to get this, to get that. And it really changed them as people, made them hard and bitter. And me, knowing that my father was going to do that, I wasn't, I knew what he was. I knew that he was, he couldn't help himself. And so I set it up so it worked out great for everybody else. My dad made, he made the money he put into it and a little bit more. And he thought that was great. But he didn't have the vision to stick to it. And because he wasn't in charge, meaning he has, signed the checks, but I could sign the checks, but meaning he had no idea what I was doing. And I kept doing stuff. I just kept, doing it straight ahead. And like I said, we had a rent roll of 40 grand a month. And when he said, I'm going to tell you, I said, Dad, what are you nuts? I mean, look how much money this business is making in the worst of times. And then the best of times is, the 90s were just in front of us. I said, this place is going to, this is shithole. It never, why'd you buy all these burnt out buildings, blah, blah, blah. And, the lawyer saw it. So once my dad said, I'm through with you. I said, okay. And he goes, you don't want to argue? You don't want to? I said, no, why should I? Good luck. See you later. Bye. And I just left. And that's when my dad was like freaked out, and he sold everything to the lawyer for, $300 or $400 grand. But he made he made almost $50 million. And my dad could have gotten that, And on the other side of the coin, I could have gotten a lot of that, but I would not be the guy I am today if I did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and a lot of great things happened while I was there for about 4 or 5 years. And I had a great time, and I had a lot of great experiences. And I was doing lots of stuff myself with these people that had nothing to do with my dad. So I walked out of that room with enough change in my pocket not to feel bad about it. You know what I mean? I just, I just didn't. My dad paid me $500 a week, for all the stuff I was doing. But I did all these other jobs also, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. And so I left that area with a nice chunk of change in my pocket. And a number of years later, that lawyer got a hold of me and, handed me a couple of nice checks. And the other guys who I gave, they had businesses that they'd never have, were like, when we did work after that. And that's what that's how the world can actually work. Those guys couldn't believe that I handed them these businesses. Like, they thought that I was, going to take advantage of everything and put the stuff in my name. I said, no. I'm taking you to my lawyer, and we're going to set up LLCs. The guys who did the construction, the excavation, and put that in their name. And then I set the guy who was the lead carpenter. I said, okay, I'm going to set an LLC up with you and the guys as a business. So you can go on, because people are coming and seeing the jobs we're doing, and they're asking me to do this next job. And we did put a bunch of them together. And we did those 3 or 4. And like I said, I walked away with a nice pocket from that. But they were there with a business and had clientele clamoring for them. And they were all set up with bank accounts and LLCs and everything ready for them to go. And my dad could have had all of that and more, but his ego was like, because he would show up at jobs and no one would kiss his ring. You know, they had no idea who he was, you know, because he was never there. He was in Florida playing golf, you know, he's never, ever, he had no idea what we were doing, you know, but he kept getting checks for rent that were like, he couldn't believe it. And then one day he showed up and said, what are you guys doing? You know, and he saw the kind of money that I was spending, but that was nothing compared from what was coming in. So he couldn't even put that together. And he's considered, you know, a great businessman. No. No. I mean, he had certain characteristics that lent himself to make money in what he did because he was the only guy doing it. It's pretty easy to be really successful when you're the only guy doing it. And my mother was the smart one. The business was named after her, you know? And she came up with all the ideas. I mean, he went out and sold the stuff, but she ran the business. You know, she kept the book. She did everything, right? Their business, right? And like I said, it's pretty easy to make a good chunk of change when you're the only guy selling a product that everybody wants. And that was my mom's genius. She figured out this product. Do you ever put your hair up in curlers? Are you still there, honey? Nope, she left. Anyway, so back to the rest of you guys. How many are you there? Nobody's there. What, you didn't like having a little conversation like that? What time is it? Oh, come on. Anybody else there? I'm gonna, let's see. 1 hour and 7 minutes. Fish was there. My phone is dying. I'll call you later. Okay. So, okay, I'm back. That was just an experiment. So, we were talking about reptiles. And Fish jumped in. I love Fish, right? That was a nice conversation. We talked about a ton of different things, right? And you guys didn't jump in. You know, you had the opportunity. Yeah, it's a live chat. Oh,
Were by the end of week 1, Australia immediately. But they said, no, we want it taken down worldwide. And he said, I'm not going to take it down worldwide. And that was another spat, or he's standing up for free speech. But what it turns out is that he has taken down globally content demanded by the Australian government before. In the 6 months to March of this year, Twitter X took down 40,000 pieces of content demanded by the EU globally, not just in the EU, globally. So there's a story going on in the background quietly, and there's a story going on for public consumption. And we've really got to start realizing that there's a psyop going on here. And it's all right saying, or free speech. Well, hold on a minute. Let's just talk about that. What's happening? And YouTube have just started moving into this arena. Interestingly, it's like it's the new censorship. Fewer people are outright banned, but if you're saying the wrong thing, then no one ever sees it, or virtually no one ever sees it.
So much shadow banning.
Shadow banning. So this is actually being articulated by Linda Yaccarino, who is the CEO of Twitter X and a close associate of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab. That's just the person you want to pick, isn't it, Elon? And she's talked about free speech but not reach. Speech but not reach.
Yeah, that's a better way to hide it. Because if you're actually fully shut down, you can say that will get out somehow. But if you don't realize that it's not reaching people, you don't really say anything.
Exactly. The number of people, I've got 663,000 followers of my Twitter X page. And the number of times people say, I never see your post, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What?
Same for me. I mean, I had a friend say something not long ago that was like, I realized I hadn't seen your stuff in a while. And sure enough, you've been shadow banned. And I was like, huh. Fun.
That's exactly what's going on. And she talks about lawful but awful. So who decides if something's, it's lawful, but who decides if it's awful? Well, they do. And so what you've seen, I've watched this. I mean, I'm on the case every waking minute. I've watched this happen. This center of the alternative media that's created this barricade of myopic focus on only politics. They get massive algorithmic support, and others, wonderful people who are on the outside of that barricade brigade and are open to a greater sense of what's going on. They don't get that support. And of course, the person that gets most algorithmic support on Twitter X is Musk. And he's posting like machine gun fire, which means he's obviously not doing them all, to say the least.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of postings happening, and he's always at the top of your feed.
Yeah, but what you said, yeah, exactly. But this is the point. He's the kingmaker. You see, I talk about this in the reveal. He's the kingmaker because if he reposts something by someone, automatically the algorithms will give that someone tens of millions of views sometimes. And so by targeting who he reposts, he's manipulating the information that people receive and
your algorithm
action on particular people. And I said in a post recently, responding to something that he posted. Obviously, he didn't get many views compared with him, to say the least, because it's shadow banned. But anything you say about him that's negative is shadow banned. But I was pointing out, he was saying, when this Zuckerberg thing broke, he said, Zuckerberg, he was manipulating the election by, through Facebook and all this stuff.
He admitted it, right? That was
Then you say, why has he just admitted it? But which is another story. But the point I made was, well, hold on, mate, Mr. Musk, but you're manipulating this election because you are favoring massively on X Donald Trump. I've got no brief for Kamala Harris. I mean, or me. God, are you kidding? I've got no brief for Trump either. But I've got no brief for either of them. But if you're taking this literally and you're taking this balance literally, then he's using X to support Trump, and the algorithms are supporting Trump. He posts negatively about Harris. He posts positively all the time about Trump. Now he's saying, well, America's finished without Trump coming in and all this. What about this? Hey, what about this? How about this for an idea? That we just let people post. The algorithms are equal, and no one's shadow banned, no one's boosted, and people just make their minds up what they want to believe on the basis of what they see. How about that for an idea?
It's way too simple and not nearly manipulative enough.
No, it's not. They're not interested in that because they have their team to support, and so this is what we're dealing with. And if we stay with Musk for a second, and I could talk about him for hours, really, given the research I've done on him, but he's got these companies, and one of them is SpaceX. And if you look at the background to SpaceX, he went on a trip to Russia with a CIA operative called Michael Griffin. And bizarre as it may sound, the idea was to buy intercontinental ballistic missiles from the Russians. The deal didn't work out, and on the way back, Musk is reported by Griffin to have said that he's going to start SpaceX, and he offered Griffin, this CIA guy, a major job in the company. But instead of that, Griffin was offered a job, which he took, as head of In-Q-Tel. In-Q-Tel is the CIA's technological development arm. It seed funds companies and startups to produce technology that benefit the CIA and its surveillance and control systems, right? In-Q-Tel. Michael Griffin later moved from In-Q-Tel to become head of NASA. And at that point, NASA started giving big contracts to Musk and SpaceX, which have gone on ever since.
Right. And Trump has endorsed the space mission for NASA and everything too. So there's another link there.
But this is the thing, you see, if you look at the Trump thing, the number of people in this AI arena that are pushing this AI agenda that have actually formed around Trump. I mean, I've been blocked by so many people on Twitter of many various kinds for questioning. But one of them is a guy called Mark Andreessen, who's a multi-billionaire kind of internet Silicon Valley AI guy, who I mentioned in the book, but I've never mentioned him on Twitter. But he just banned me, and interestingly, he blocked me. But interestingly, he blocked me at the time that J.D. Vance was being made the running mate of Trump. And I was pointing out a few things about J.D. Vance at the time. He is a business associate of a guy called Peter Thiel.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Peter Thiel is a co-founder of Palantir. Palantir produces surveillance and control technology for the Pentagon, for the intelligence community in America and worldwide. And he's on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, this globalist organization. And he's a business partner and associate of J.D. Vance. And he funded J.D. Vance's political career when he became a senator. And when they were playing around with names, who's going to be Trump's running mate, and they listed the names, and one of them was J.D. Vance, I said it's going to be him. It was obvious because...
Might have been the only one, because I don't feel like his name was on the radar.
Yeah, well, Peter Thiel was on the transition team for Trump when he won the election in 2016. So all these people are connected. Peter Thiel is part of the so-called PayPal mafia, of which Elon Musk is a part. He's an old associate of Elon Musk. Yeah. And so you then look at another co-founder of Palantir, providing technology for the intelligence community and what have you, the Pentagon. And he's on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group alongside Peter Thiel. So you've got these people who are central players in a blatantly globalist organization started in 1954 at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland. That's why it got the name it did. But they're funding and supporting people who, on the surface, are anti-globalist. So what you've got, again, we come back to this. You've got the hard sell, easy pushback, no pushback. And you've got the soft sell. And the soft sellers are everywhere around Trump for this whole AI agenda. So if we go back again to SpaceX is putting up because of this system they call Starlink. They're putting up low orbit satellites by the tens of thousands. Really? The Federal Communications Commission in America has given SpaceX permission already to put up tens of thousands of these low orbit satellites beaming this electromagnetic field at the Earth. Because this is what I'm saying is going on. The hive mind, and this is why I mentioned earlier that what he's doing with Neuralink is the Stone Age compared with what's possible. And in many ways, what Musk's role is not just to produce technology that's cutting edge. Very rare that he does that, actually, compared with what's in the underground bases and the secret projects. But it's to sell a concept. So he's selling the concept of connecting electronic systems, computer systems, and AI to the human brain. Because the real way it's being done is this, and I've seen some study papers this very day that's actually another confirmation of it, and that is that you've got a global population, and you want to control them with a hive mind that is centrally controllable. So you need them to individually receive that hive mind, and you need a vehicle to transmit directions, thoughts, perceptions collectively to those receivers. So the vehicle is what they call the cloud. This is what Kurzweil at Google has been talking about in terms of the AI connection to the human brain. He's talking about connecting humans to the cloud.
Sure. I mean, I've had a service on my phone for a decade now that sends a frequency that helps you get to a higher frequency because of the EMFs and everything that come off the phone. So while you're talking about getting plugged into AI, they can affect us from a frequency standpoint without an actual transmitter like inside of the body. So, I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the show Westworld, but the end of that ended with, showing how they can literally control the masses with frequency, and the tower that's doing it is invisible to the naked eye unless you thin that veil enough or you change your frequency to be able to see. And you're like, there it is. And they're the crazy ones.
Exactly, and that's the whole basis of it. So the cloud is the vehicle. The electromagnetic cloud is the vehicle for delivering these frequencies, and this is why they have tried so hard to have the fake COVID vaccine, which is not a vaccine by any previous criteria, infused into every human, preferably multiple times.
Well, alongside of that came 5G, which was definitely a suspicion on what was implanted inside the body that could then be activated by 5G.
Well, that's the point, you see. I mean, during the COVID lockdowns, they said only essential work. Well, essential work included putting 5G towers all over the place. And while people were locked away in their homes, they were doing it without any challenge. What are you doing? What are you doing? And you come out, and suddenly there's these 5G towers. But not that I was locked away in my home. I wouldn't have it. I went out whenever I wanted to. But the point is, these two are absolutely connected. So you can generate this cloud from towers in urban areas and towns and cities. Yeah, you can. But if you're going to hit every inch of the planet, which is what the game is, you've got to do it from space. And that's what the low orbit satellites are all about. I mean, SpaceX is by far the leader in doing it, but there are others as well. And the more they put up, and you'll see Musk bragging about more of these satellites have gone up on Twitter X. And so that's the vehicle through which they want to deliver these frequencies of perceptual manipulation and control. But the fake COVID jab, and now they're moving other vaccines to that system on purpose, is with this in mind.
Just you're saying adding ingredients or adding things into that vaccine.
What's been found, and I've studied this a lot. I was contacted by a group called La Quinta Columna in Spain that was on the case of what's in the fake vials, vaccine vials from the very early days, and I've seen the work of other people too, who've looked at blood of not just fake vaccinated people, or that obviously that's worse, but also non-vaccinated people who are getting it from other sources, which I'll come to. They are seeing under very, very powerful microscopes, electron microscopes rather, self-replicating nanotechnology that, in their words, appears to have a form of consciousness, to form these systems that are building in the blood. Right. A significant number of people, their bodies won't be able to cope with that transition, and they're the people who died and had their health destroyed for life, and then others will transition a little bit more easily. But the idea is that these self-replicating systems in the body are the receivers of the frequency information coming through the cloud. Now, what's fascinating in relation to this, and was identified by La Quinta Columna quite a few years ago now, is a substance in the vials known as graphene oxide. Now, graphene oxide is also, whistleblowers have said, in chemtrails. So there are others, and it's in many other things, and so there are many other sources of it. But this infusion through the COVID fake vaccine is the major one up to this point. And graphene oxide is a superconductor of electricity. So when you think that the brain processes information electrically and communicates with the body and the body with it electrically, if you can intervene in that process, you're already changing